Hello, happy holidays, and welcome to another edition of Faith Warrior. Today, I want to share a little bit about my 35 years I spent suffering from addiction, but I also want to say that the holidays can highlight what addiction has taken from us: connection, trust, time with people we love. Addiction also isolates, and the holidays make that isolation louder. You see, by showing up here is proof that change is possible, even when things aren't fixed yet. But before I get started, if anyone is feeling overwhelmed, trapped, or alone in darkness, just as I once was, please stick around. You know, I spent most of my life lost to addiction and despair, and I didn't find freedom through strength or willpower, but through surrendering to my Lord and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I wanted to share that being a faith warrior is not someone who feels strong, but it's about someone who knows they're weak and clings to Christ anyways. So if you're listening right now and you feel trapped by addiction, fear, or a sense of darkness, please know that you're not alone. See, for 35 years, I was in that darkness of addiction, and I tried to fix myself. I tried to stay strong, and I failed over and over again. And over again, after each failure, I fell deeper into the darkness with feelings of guilt, shame, anger, and sadness. So I know how it feels. And my addictions grew stronger while my willingness to fight grew weaker. But you see, my story is about willpower. It's about surrender. And that's what I want to share with you today. You see, what addiction did wasn't just damage my body or my relationships. It hollowed me out. I used to live with constant shame, fear, and isolation, anger, and resentment. Even when people were around me, I felt alone. Sadness and anger would, slowly creep in, and the lies would get louder. And you know about them lies in your head. And I knew something was wrong. Not just mentally or emotionally, but spiritually. I felt separated from God, and over time I stopped believing I could ever come back. And I tried, but I couldn't. And this loss of connection led me to fill my spiritual void with substances and alcohol, replacing that experience of spiritual fulfillment with, of course, a temporary and ugly and fake high. And over time, my addictive behaviors overshadowed my genuine spiritual pursuits. And they created a significant barrier in my relationship with myself and the divine. To the point that, I tried to pray, but I just couldn't. I was just overtaken by my addictions. And those addictions didn't only hinder my personal growth, it led me to deeper in despair and deeper into my addiction, leaving me feeling lost and disconnected, even more. I even started experiencing intense feelings of isolation and emptiness. The shame and guilt, caused a huge emotional rift, which led to further disengagement spiritually, and then my relationships with loved ones too. And I'm sure, as I'm saying this, I'm relating to many of you. And I started experiencing with intense feelings of not wanting to be around people anymore, and just hating myself. Even though I was there and I would put this front, being happy, inside I was hating myself. And this isolation, fed back into my addiction, trapping me in a cycle of despair. And I started engaging in maladaptive behavior to escape from the emotional void. But that just provided a temporary escape. What it did do was create bigger problems. As my addiction deepened, that sense of purpose worsened my feelings of loneliness and spiritual desolation. I believe that if I just tried a little harder and if I promised myself one more time, I could fix myself. But that strength never lasted. My addiction was overpowered that strength of wanting to fix myself. And that willpower ran out, would always run out. And back into the darkness I went. Eventually I reached a point where I stopped pretending I could save myself. I just had become exhausted and frustrated anyway that eventually I just quit trying. I just can't do it any longer, and I accepted that. Not by myself, I couldn't at least. And I still remember that night, when I gave up on myself, that I couldn't do it any longer. But I knew I needed help. I knew I was needing, to get out of this addiction that I was in. And I cried out to God, and not with polished words, not with confidence, but out of desperation. I was all alone, crying, feeling worthless, desolate, and lost. And stripped of my pride, I humbly accepted defeat, and I cried for his help. A few days passed, and still under the influence, I ended up at a church. And without giving any thought, I approached the confessional with a humble heart, confessed my sins while sobbing uncontrollably. And I had one of the most liberating experiences one could ever have. I had learned about confession and what it meant growing up Catholic, but I never learned or ever understood the true purpose of the sacrament. But I'm extremely grateful for the fact that I was fighting for my life and that God showed me this freedom through the sacrament. And I returned to my faith in my local parish, and instead of receiving condemnation, which I thought I would, I found mercy. Exactly the opposite of the lies I was hearing in my head. Nothing dramatic happened, no lightning, just peace. And for the first time in decades, I found hope. And it's been 4 months now, and I'm still a work in progress. And the temptations haven't disappeared, but I'm no longer alone in this battle. My sobriety is sustained by my faith, prayer, and in communion with my church family. But most importantly, a communion with God. So if you're listening and you feel overwhelmed, scared, lost, angry, sad, desperate, or depressed, I want you to hear this. You're not abandoned and you're not alone. Don't listen to the lies. He's there waiting for you to cry out to him. And don't worry about fixing yourself before coming to God, because I didn't. You can come exactly as you are, and he will receive you with open arms. Even if all you can do is whisper the name Jesus, that's a step into the light and out of the darkness. Please know that God is using everything in your life, the good, the bad, the ugly, to get you ready for eternity. But you must submit to him. Once you understand this, life begins to make sense. You even stop questioning the why. Why is this happening to me? You see, today's troubles are preparing you for tomorrow's joys. So be truly glad. There is wonderful joy ahead, even though you must endure many trials for a little while. This tested faith will lead you to praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. So stay strong, remain faithful, and keep fighting the good fight. This is Faith Warrior, signing off.